We're returning now to our top story. Two men have been killed in a car explosion on the US-Canadian border in New York. This was Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau addressing Parliament in the wake of the attack.
Mr. Speaker, this is obviously a very serious situation in Niagara Falls. There was a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge crossing. I've been briefed by the NSIA and the Minister of Public Safety. CBSA, RCMP and Transport Canada are all fully engaged in providing the necessary support. There are a lot of questions and we are following up to try and get as many answers as rapidly as possible. We are in close contact with US officials and will continue to work closely with them.
And joining us live now is Jim Diodati, the Mayor of Niagara Falls on the Canadian side of the border. Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Can you tell us what is the latest update you've been given by authorities about what happened here?
Well, the good news is it appears to be an isolated incident and not an act of terrorism. And Ash, that was our greatest concern early on. I mean, 9/11 is still in many of our memories. And during COVID, we shut down all of our Canadian-U.S. international borders. So it has a devastating effect for those of us along the border. What we found, the most recent update of the 4 international crossings here in Niagara, 3 of them have reopened. The only one that still remains closed is the Rainbow Bridge, where they're doing the investigation. So we'll wait for the FBI investigation results before we know exactly what happened. But as I say, the good news is it's an isolated incident, and our heart goes out to the families who lost the 2 individuals that perished in the explosion.
Absolutely. Has this incident, though, do you think, exposed any security flaws at the border crossing, or are you comfortable with the current setup?
No, I think we're in a pretty good shape, Ash, because after 9/11, prior to 9/11, I should say, when you crossed that border, you didn't even need to have ID. And now, since that time, you need at least a passport. They put up a lot of secure barriers and cameras, and they've gone to great lengths to make sure those borders are protected. We're very proud of the fact it is the world's largest unmilitarized border, and it's been that way for more than 200 years. So we go to great lengths to protect that border, because what happens on one side certainly has an impact on the other side. And a lot of people don't realize there are 2 Niagara Falls. There's Niagara Falls, Canada, and Niagara Falls, USA. And we see it as one big city divided by a border. And we'll have family on both sides of that border. And there's free flow of traffic, whether it's for tourism. Niagara Falls, we get 14 million tourists every year, or whether it's shopping or seeing family or friends. We go back and forth like going across town. So for us, it was devastating when it happened in the past, and we all held our breath, and now we're relieved, and we're excited too that the borders are reopened, especially given the fact that it is the U.S. Thanksgiving. It's their biggest retail and the biggest holiday time of the year for American friends.
Jim, this must have just been a real shock for your community. The vision that we've seen is extraordinary when you look at the speed at which this car was approaching that border crossing. As you pointed out, investigations will now get underway, but is there a working theory about what could have been the motivation here? It doesn't seem to make sense.
No, and the latest, and I've been speaking with our federal counterparts and our international counterparts, and of course our first responders, but it's pretty obvious that that car came at an accelerated rate toward the border. It hit an embankment, was airborne, caught on fire, exploded. The theory that we're hearing right now is maybe there was a health issue that happened to the driver as they were approaching the border, and that resulted in the speed and, of course, the final outcome. So, it's very, very sad, and our heart goes out to the families. But at the same time, it's very sad. It could have been much worse. And I'm just, like I say, grateful that it isn't a bigger picture. We're not talking about an act of international terrorism. Certainly, that's the way it looks at this point. And I know as the FBI concludes their investigation, we're going to have a lot more of the details of what exactly happened. But from bird's eye view and from boots on the ground, that's the latest that we're getting from updates on what actually happened at the border.
Jim Diodati, Mayor of Niagara Falls, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.